Donald Trump has stated that he will likely sign into law a bill that ends the federal ban on marijuana in states and territories that have legalized marijuana.
I really do. I support Senator Gardner. I know exactly what he's doing. We're looking at it, but I probably will end up supporting that, yes.
As I explained in a previous video, the way all this came about was, in January of 2018, Attorney General Jeff Sessions decided to rescind the Cole memo, which is an Obama-era memo that prevented the federal government from cracking down on marijuana in states that have legalized it. Now, the senator from Colorado, Republican Cory Gardner, was pretty angry about this, and he decided to block all of Donald Trump's Justice Department nominees until he got guarantees from Donald Trump that they would not crack down on people legally using pot within the states, and that Donald Trump would sign legislation making it impossible for the federal government to do these crackdowns. He said that he did get these assurances from Donald Trump back in April of 2018, and back then we didn't hear Donald Trump himself say anything, but his White House spokesman, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, did confirm that what Cory Gardner said is true and that Donald Trump did make this agreement. Now we have Donald Trump actually saying that he will likely support the legislation that Cory Gardner has just introduced into the Senate. Back in April, we didn't know the details of the legislation that Cory Gardner was going to introduce, but now we do have those details. Here are some of them. The bill, known as the States Act, which stands for the Strengthening the 10th Amendment Through Entrusting States Act, was introduced into the Senate a day before Donald Trump said he would likely support it, by Republican Senator Cory Gardner and Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren. It points out that 46 states have laws decriminalizing marijuana or marijuana-based products. This is true when you consider all the states that have legalized marijuana, all the states that have legalized medical marijuana, all the states that have legalized cannabis oils, and all the states that have legalized industrial hemp. This law would not only apply to states, but also to federal territories like Washington, D.C., Guam, and Puerto Rico that have also legalized marijuana, and also to tribes that are federally recognized that have legalized marijuana. It also applies to states that have legalized cannabis products like cannabis oils, states that have legalized industrial hemp, and states that have legalized medical marijuana. The law states that the Controlled Substance Act's laws regarding the manufacture, production, possession, distribution, dispensation, administration, or delivery of marijuana do not apply to any person acting in compliance with state or tribal laws. It does include a few very minor restrictions. One of them is that cannabis cannot be sold for recreational purposes to somebody under the age of 21. However, all 9 states that have legalized pot so far for recreational purposes only allow recreational pot for adults aged 21 and over. It also doesn't allow the sale of marijuana at truck stops and requires that people who work at marijuana dispensaries be at least 18 years old. Like I said, these are pretty minor exceptions, and it does allow for the use of medical marijuana for people under the age of 21. It also states that conduct in compliance with this act shall not be considered unlawful and shall not be considered trafficking. That's significant because the Justice Department earlier this year decided that even legal dispensaries under state law of cannabis could be considered to be trafficking in controlled substances, and that has prevented banks from being willing to do business with them because the federal government has prohibited banks from doing business with people who are drug traffickers. This act would essentially nullify the Justice Department's decision on that and make it possible for banks to do business with legal cannabis dispensaries. The law also prevents the federal government from using asset forfeiture against cannabis businesses that are legal under state laws. All in all, this law goes pretty far in almost completely nullifying federal laws that conflict with state laws that legalize cannabis or cannabis products. In my previous video on this topic, I did predict that Donald Trump will likely sign this bill and keep his promise to end the federal ban on marijuana for states that have legalized it. And now that he is actually saying this does make it seem that my prediction is more likely to be correct. It's true that Trump didn't say he would definitely sign it, but he did say he would probably sign it. And the fact that he said that he knows exactly what Cory Gardner is doing and that he supports Senator Gardner, in addition to the fact that he said he would probably support the bill, is a very good sign that he is going to keep his promise. Another reason I think he's going to keep his promise is because I think he is politically savvy enough to realize that currently, according to the Gallup poll, the most recent one, which was done in October of 2017, 64% of Americans now support legalizing marijuana for recreational purposes. In addition, 51% of Republicans support legalizing marijuana for recreational purposes. So now even the majority of Republicans support this issue. At one time, it was considered political suicide to say that you support legalizing marijuana, but I no longer think this is the case. I also think that the Democrat Party would be wise to nominate someone in 2020 who also supports ending the ban on marijuana in states that have legalized it. And if Trump does not end up signing this bill, that could be used against him by his Democrat challenger. The other reason I think Donald Trump will likely keep his promise is because if he doesn't, Cory Gardner will likely go back to blocking his Justice Department nominees, and Donald Trump doesn't want that. So go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon for notifications, and together we shall take over the world. I upload 5 videos a month. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Zorkbid123, and I broadcast live on Younow and Twitch at Zorkbid123.